right, well, let's go ahead and we will get the meeting started. It is about 1 o'clock right now, and I think that's given folks some time to get connected and get joined in. So we'll go ahead and get things kicked off now. So welcome everybody to the January 2020 meeting of the Google Educators Group of Ohio. This is a monthly meeting where we take a look at everything new in G Suite from the last month. We share some Googly tips and tricks, answer questions related to using Google tools in school and more. Hi, my name is Eric Kurtz. I'm a technology integration specialist at the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, or SPARC for short. SPARC is an information technology center serving schools in Northeast Ohio. I'm also joined, as always, by Stephanie Howell. Give Stephanie a moment to do a quick intro as well. Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. Stephanie Howell here. I am with Pickerington Local School District, and I help our 5th and 6th graders and our teachers use technology in powerful ways. And I'm excited for today's meeting, and I missed everybody last December with holidays and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. We do try to make it a monthly meeting, but it doesn't always work out, especially with December. It was a short month as far as having people, in school with all the holidays that we had there. And Google doesn't really release a whole lot of new things during that time of year. So this is technically a 2-month meeting. Yes, we'll be combining things from December and January together in this meeting. So you get a 2-for-1 in this one. Now, as you heard, both Stephanie and I are from Ohio, and this is the Google Educator Group of Ohio, but we want to make sure everybody knows this meeting is open to anyone, whether you're inside Ohio or outside of Ohio. As long as you've got an interest in using Google tools in education, we're happy you're here and appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. As we've mentioned, all of the resources for today's meeting can be found in our Google document agenda. Now, I'm guessing most people probably have been able to get into this document already, but if you're watching this as a recorded video in the future, and maybe just came across the video and you didn't have the document to lead you there, you can get to this document at bit.ly/GEG Ohio. That is going to take you out to the GEG Ohio website, which looks like this. And once you get to the GEG Ohio website, if you just scroll down to the monthly meetings link, that will bring up a page where you can see the different dates that we have our meetings. Find today's date, January 30th, and if you scroll across, you'll see there's the agenda link. So even when this meeting is over, this agenda link will still take you to this document, and the document will always exist. At the moment, it is an editable document. We will switch it over to comment only after the meeting is done, but you can always leave feedback, through comments on it. But right now, this is an editable document, so we want to encourage everybody to participate in this document today. So if you have something you would like to add, there are sections through here, including things like upcoming events. If you know about a conference that we did not include, please put that in there. The what's new in G Suite for Education. If we missed any, news, or if you have a comment, like we can see Star commented on one of the news items, please do that. That would be wonderful. Below there's a section called Q&A, and we've got a lot of folks who've been throwing in some questions today. So, oh my gosh, we have some excellent questions to take a look at here later. Please feel free to either add a question, or if you have experience with these things, you want to put an answer in, please do type in an answer as well. And then at the very bottom of the document, we have show and tell. This is where we share just neat ideas on how to use G Suite in your school, or a neat extension you've come across, or a great blog post that you found recently that relates to using Google tools in schools. Please feel free to fill out any of those details in the show and tell section. Now, today we are joined by a special guest. We have Alex Oris with us today. He'll be jumping in here throughout the meeting whenever he would like to jump in and join us. We're going to have a time for him to share during the show and tell section on some awesome things that Alex has been doing. And so we are very excited. We love to have guests with us, and typically try to have a guest each month. All right, well, in addition to the shared document, please also feel free to leave comments in the YouTube chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that as well. With all of that said, I think we are ready to get into the agenda. Let's get it started. All right. So we've done our introductions. We'll scroll past that. Let's pause for a moment on the section called important links. And the one that I want to draw your attention to is the one that's highlighted in green. And this is our sign-in form. We do ask each month that people take just a quick moment to sign in for the meeting. What that does is two things. It allows me to send you a certificate of attendance for attending the meeting. I'll mail merge those and send those out later on, but it also allows us to let Google know how many people attend the meetings. They do ask that we submit that information. I don't share, anybody's emails or names. I just share numbers with Google. So if you would take a moment and fill out, your name and email is there so that I can generate your certificate of attendance, but the rest of it down there, picking the date and whether this was your first time attending a Google user group meeting or not. That's information that I will collate and summarize up and send on to Google. So we appreciate you taking a moment to fill in that sign-in form. Below that, we have a section called Updates. And this is where we just give a quick little update on our Google user group community. There still exists an old Google Plus community, which looks like we're up to about the same amount, a little over 2,100 members on that. The Google Plus community still does exist, and you can absolutely post things there. We encourage you to do so. Unfortunately, not everybody's able to join Google Plus any longer because of the change to how Google Plus functions now. You can't use personal accounts anymore. You have to use educational accounts. And so what we did earlier last year was we switched over to using a Google group for email communication. And so if you haven't joined that group, we won't go through the details on it. You can see that all here. You can head out to the Google Groups website for GEG Ohio, and from there you can join that group. And basically it just allows you to be able to stay plugged in between the meetings. If you've got a question, post it to the group. If somebody has a question and you've got an answer, go ahead and post that to the group. If there's a neat upcoming training you want everybody to know about, let them know about a conference, let them know about events. And so the GEG Ohio email group is open to anybody, and we definitely encourage you to join that group to stay connected with the community. All right, next up, we've got some upcoming events. And at this point, I think I'm gonna turn this over to Stephanie and let her share about some of the upcoming conferences and events that we have in the next few months.
So coming up, there's the Neo Tech Conference, which I've never been to, but I know Eric has been to, and he's attended, and I think you presented, I'm sure.
Yes, so the Neo Tech Conference, that is an annual conference right in my neck of the woods. It's been held at Kent, it's been held at Akron, they even held it at Cleveland once, but it's always been Northeast Ohio. And it is very similar to the Spark conference that we do here as well. A lot of shared ideas on how those conferences are run. The conference this year is going to be in Akron, and it's a 2-day conference where the first day focuses more on like administration and in the techie end of it, or like the management end of things, the more technical end. And day 2, the 17th, is more on the integration part as far as curriculum goes. So yeah, so the link is there for anybody that would like to register, and it is free. So
I kind of like how they split up the 2 days, so that way they've got 2 different tracks, and you can decide which day is better fit for you, or you can go both days.
That's awesome.
So the next one is OETC. It's coming very soon. This is our Ohio Educational Technology Conference. And there are some great sessions. They just posted the app, so you might want to check out for different sessions. They also have a Google room. They had this last year, and I believe they made the room bigger because of the attendance that filled up those rooms. So make sure if you are at OETC, you can go to some of those sessions. They also have a Google Hangout area. And then we're also having a Google EdTech party. So this will be at 11:30 on the 12th, and we're going to be going to Flatiron for lunch.
Now, does anybody, do people need to sign up for that? Can they just show up there at Flatiron on that day?
Feel free to just show up at 11:30. They said that they would probably get busy around noon. So you might want to try to beat that lunch crowd if possible. And we'll just kind of hang out until we want to go back to sessions at the convention center.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so good. Thank you for organizing that. Really appreciate that. It'll be a great chance to meet other GEG Ohio folks and other people who are interested in Google tools here at the conference. That's awesome.
And then the Ohio Google Summit, ITIP, just the presenters just got alerted of who is presenting. So they are working on that schedule. And that one is coming up in May. And that is in Sandusky. And it's all about Google. So again, another great conference to attend. And then Eric just put in his Spark Educational Technology Conference. It's in August. So just to start planning ahead.
Right, really more of a save the date thing. I don't even have like registration is not open, call for proposals is not open yet, but it's more of a hey, save the date kind of thing. Just so you're planning, we always do it the first Friday of August to kick off a new school year and get people back into the swing of things. So I'd say within the next month, you'll start to hear more, but I just wanted to get it on everybody's radar there so they can plan for that. That is a free conference as well. And we hold that here on the Stark State College campus where we have our location as well. Awesome. All right. Anything else with conferences here? I think Stephanie, you're I know we're presenting at the Google Summit, and there's a session that you had put together that includes several of us. Correct? It'll be like a panel session, right?
Yeah, at the ITIP, we're doing we try to get all of the Ohio Google innovators to do a session, and there will be 5 of us that are attending the Kalahari event. So we're going to do a session. It's about like being innovative and to give you some different ideas of how to use Google in your classroom.
Oh, fantastic. Looking forward to all of these great events, and hopefully folks who are listening will be able to attend either Neotech or OETC or the Ohio Google Summit or the Spark Conference. And please say hi. Please connect. I love to chat with folks at all those events. Very good. All right. Well, let's get into the bulk of what we're going to spend our time on here each month, and that is what is new in Google. The idea behind this is there's just so many new things coming out all the time from Google, and it's hard to keep up on that. And so Stephanie and I do our best to monitor all of the different Google blogs and their Twitter feed and the official accounts from Google to try to see anytime something new gets announced. So you can just come to a one-stop shop and be like, okay, this is it. These are all the new things that happened in the last month. Now, we're not going to go through every one of these. There's just so many of them. So we've tried to highlight a few that kind of caught our eye, and we'll, talk through those. However, if you have any questions or comments on any of these, please feel free to leave a comment. Like we said, Star had a question on this one here about proposing a new meeting time and calendar from Gmail. That's fantastic. Please feel free to drop a comment over here in the margin or put something in the YouTube chat if we skip over something or if you have a question on anything there. All right. Well, Stephanie, would you like to kick us off with what's new in G Suite, and we'll just kind of bounce back and forth?
I can. Some of these have been out for a while. Just like the first one that we're going to show you is back in December. And so this one was really cool. I use it all the time. You just start typing the Google Doc file that you might be thinking about, and it pops up right in that Omnibar, which I think is so helpful and such a time saver. Instead of going to open up another tab, going to Drive, you can just do this right in your own tab, and then you can open up that Google Doc or the Google Drive or the folder or whatever it is. And it just has saved me so much time. I don't know if it's saved anyone else so much time.
I don't think I have really taken advantage of that. And it sounds like you're really, that makes so much sense. Like here I am in this, on this blog. If I just came up here to the Omnibar, and if I wanted to get to our agenda for today and I typed in, Google user group, yep, look at that. It's not just searching the web for web pages. It's also looking in my Drive, and right there it is. Here's our 2020 January document. And how convenient that the Omnibar now searches our Drive as well.
Yeah, you just need to know the name of the document, which a lot of times I do, but there are times that I don't. So if you do know the name, you can quickly find what you're looking for.
One more quick step to cut out and make things a little bit easier than having to head over to Drive. Thanks so much. That's a great one. All right. The next couple here, I'm going to lump together a few because they're all sites related. So here's this one's on sites, 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 and sites. So the next four that are bolded here, we'll just throw all together because they basically announced a whole bunch of updates to Google Sites. Now, I'll mention them real quick and then I can demonstrate a couple, but they're not all out yet. So I can't actually show you all of these features yet. What's happened, there's a couple of things. One is they've made some updates to the image carousels, table of contents, and the buttons. Now for that one, I can actually show you that, and I'll drag a site over to demonstrate that here in a second. But the gist is, if you add a image carousel, you can now add captions to the image carousel images, and you can also change the speed at which the image carousel moves. If you do a table of contents and you don't want one of the items to show in there, you can now hide individual portions of the table of contents from that list. And buttons now have some more options for how you style them. Let me grab a demo site that I have here. This really is just a demo site. As you can see, it just says demo on it. So here is a Google site from when I went to the Jello Museum in Leroy, New York. I was throwing some stuff together here as an example. So yes, I was up in Leroy, New York doing a training, and they have the Jello Museum there. And so I went ahead and added an image carousel. And if you come in here and take a look at the carousel, you'll see a few things, such as if I hover above any of the images, I now get this little button that allows me to add a caption. So if I click on the little text button, it says add caption, and I can type in, like in this case, that's a picture of a lot of different Jello molds. So you can add captions to it. While you're editing the carousel, if you go up to the little gear in the top right, you can also get the speed. That's the new thing as to how fast the carousel moves through. I did go ahead and throw in some text boxes down here, overview of Jello and a description of Jello and the history of Jello. And from that, I went ahead then and generated a table of contents up here at the top. And this is where that other new feature comes in. If for some reason, I don't know, if I didn't want to have all of these different items listed in here, I could just hover above any one of them and hit the little eyeball button, and I could say I want to hide that from the table of contents. So now if I go and preview this, we're going to get just description and history. I won't get the Jello overview as part of the table of contents, even though it's still here. I mean, I can still come down and see it. It's just not going to be listed in the table of contents. And then, of course, here's my my image carousel moving at what they called a medium pace, but that's pretty quick. I think I'd have to probably slow that down a bit normally. And then underneath several of these, you can see the captions that I put in. All right, so that's a quick example of those updates. But like I said, there were a few others that haven't gone live yet. Let's see, the version history. So basically, it's version history. So just like you can in a Google document go File, Version History, Google Sites is getting the version history option, so you can go back and see all the changes that have been made to a site and who made them, and what the changes were. Roll it back to an earlier version. I don't have it yet. I went in and checked, so it looks like it's still coming out. It looks like they're going to be doing this, not till March. Okay, so that, yes, I checked that earlier today and did not have that yet. So that's coming out starting in March, and then throughout the year, we'll be getting version history. Cloud Search, this is one that does not apply to my domain because you do have to use G Suite Enterprise for education, and I don't have that. I just have the regular G Suite for education. But if you are an enterprise school, you can now add a search, cloud search in Google Sites, so that there'll be a little search button in the top right-hand corner, and you can tell it you want to search just your domain, search the whole internet. But again, I don't have that option since I don't have Enterprise, just the regular free version of Google for Education. And the final Google site update is when you do go to make a change and publish your site, it is going to look different here in the future. Again, this has not rolled out to mine yet. I was testing it earlier today and did not see it yet. But basically the idea is what's going to happen is when you go to publish any changes, it's going to now give you a side-by-side comparison. It'll say, this is what your site looks like right now. if you hit publish, this is what it's going to look like. These are the changes that you're making. So it'll just give you a quick, side-by-side comparison so you can see what those changes are going to be. So good deal. We're getting a lot of updates to sites. I know there's still a lot more to come. I believe the timetable is still saying that classic sites will be good through the end of 2021. So we still have 2 more years with classic sites. Google's giving themselves that time to get all of the features added to new sites that are still missing, like page level permissions and things like that.
And I like the carousel. I think that would be really helpful for portfolios that students create, and then they could show their parents, and it, rotates through different images that they've done. And then also what was really cool was being able to see the last person that published and your changes too.
Right.
And then there was a comment about what's the difference between enterprise and classic education. Enterprise is like a paid service that you could pay to have. Abid said it was $4 a user per month or something like that. So you would probably want to contact your Google person to get more information. Some of the different features are like Google Hangouts, it will record with the enterprise compared to the free classic where it doesn't have that recording. They're adding like originality reports to enterprise. They've just got a couple other features. I don't know if there's like a list somewhere.
Yeah, originally it seemed like, enterprise was more geared toward a really big school district that needed some more controls over administration. So it was some really fancy reporting and analysis and tracking of information that was like, that's good. I like that. But it wasn't anything that I'm like, well, I can live without that, especially, if you're not this, really large organization. But then over time, they've started to add more things to enterprise that, and Stephanie, you did a perfect job of explaining what those were, like recording Hangouts. That's why we're doing this with Zoom meetings right now instead of Hangouts on Air, because we don't have Hangouts on Air for free anymore. That went to enterprise to be able to record, that. And so that's an enterprise feature. And later on, we'll talk about originality reports and how those are unlimited for enterprise, but not if you're using the free version. So yeah, there are things now in enterprise that are a little bit more tempting, but it does cost. It's a cost per user, per user per month to have that. And so I think for some schools that's prohibitive. And they're like, well, we're going to keep using the free version that we've always used. And I guess there's just some features, some new features we just might not get. So. Yeah.
And I found, I just typed in Google Classic versus Enterprise to see the difference. And they actually have a filter chart. So you can go down the different products like Gmail and you can see what is the difference, what is included, what isn't included. Like calendar, everybody gets the same stuff. But if you go to Google Plus, it looks like everyone gets the same stuff. So let's see if I can find one. Google Drive, it is unlimited for education.
Yep.
But on your own account, it's not.
Right.
But there's some features there that could be different.
Yeah, I would say, without overgeneralizing, it pretty much is, enterprise is for larger organizations. It was originally designed for business, and there were some larger schools that said, hey, we would love some of those special business features that you have. I mean, it's stuff like, honestly, I'm going to butcher it because it's been too long since I've sat in those sessions where they were explaining all of the features that come with it. But it's more advanced analytics that really lets you run fancier reports on how your users are using the system, and also being able to check for things like, let's say somebody's using a credit card number and they've got that inside of a document, being alerted to things like that. It's things that a business definitely would be concerned about. And then there were some schools that said, hey, well, we're pretty big ourselves. We're kind of like a business ourselves. We'd love to have these features. And Google said, well, we don't have a way to give them to you. Those are part of the business offering. They're not part of the free Google suite. And schools said, well, is there any way you can, make that available to us? And so that's why about, 2.5 years ago, they rolled out enterprise for schools as an option. I don't personally know any schools who use Enterprise. I'm sure there's tons that do. I just don't know. I mean, in my neck of the woods here, I have not come across a school that is currently paying for it, but would sure love to hear from somebody that is and get their take on it as to, the benefit of having those extra features.
Yeah, and then in the chat, Linda said that some of her Google sites, they've just blocked it because there are Google sites where there are games created. And I think for our district, we kind of just blocked those sites. We didn't block Google sites, just the one, like we got the URL of the game sites and we've been blocking those. So Eric, I don't know if you know a workaround for that, so they don't have to block the entire Google sites.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they're saying we had to block Google Sites at our pre-K-8 school due to the ability for upper school students accessing game sites created using Google Sites. Huh. That I'm curious about that. And Amy's saying there was something on the Tech Corners listserv about that. I wish Google would give admin better control to only allow domain Google Sites on the campus. So at the moment, really, the only controls you have over Google Sites is, who can and can't, create them and how they can be shared. But to go in and, micromanage like which sites, let's see, Amy's going to check on some of the suggestions that got sent out. Thank you, Amy, for looking into that. That's great. It sounds to me like, yeah, you would almost want to rely on your filter, but it's going to be every school is going to be different as to what filter you're using to see if the filter can be a little bit more granular to, only block certain sites and not through, because I would hate to throw out the entire Google Sites tool because of that. Because it's, you already mentioned a great one there about doing portfolios. I mean, what a great way for students to create a portfolio. It's a great way to do a report rather than typing up a regular, report in a Google document, making it a, engaging multimedia web-based, report instead. Scott says we block Google Sites except for the ones in our domain. So staff and student Google Sites are not blocked. So Scott says it does work to block it except for the ones in the domain. Interesting. All right. Well, it looks like we're getting some really good discussion there in the chat about.
I'm going to move some of these to the question and answer area.
Sounds good. Why don't we do that?
Then we'll get to them later.
All right. All right. Well, let's touch on a few other what's new things. We're still working through December as we catch up on the month that we didn't have our meeting. So what's up next here, Stephanie?
So the next one is like the QR generator. So this one looks kind of interesting. I don't use a whole lot of QR codes in the classroom just because we are one-to-one and we push everything out through Google Classroom, all the links and stuff. So I don't know how useful this will be for me, but I could see this being really useful if you were teaching and it wasn't a one-to-one environment, or if you have iPads or something instead of Chromebooks, because then the kids could just scan the QR code and it would go straight to that website. And go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So what you do is you just right click and then it's going to have a thing where it says generate QR code, which I feel like this would have been helpful, 3 years ago when we weren't one-to-one. So, but now that we are, I could just see us using Google Classroom. But it kind of reminded me too of how you can send things to a different computer.
Right.
So that kind of reminded me of this feature where I could send this website to my Pixel phone if I'm on my computer.
Right. If you right click on the tab, you can send it to another one of your devices, which isn't that nice? Oh, I've loved doing that too, to just be able to send a page over to my phone and vice versa. Well, this is neat. So I guess this is not out yet. They're saying it's part of the Canary release, which is an early version of Chrome, which means it'll be a couple of versions before it gets to the stable release. But it looks like, looks like right click and say generate a QR code for this page, and then boom, people with their phones could just, if you're at a conference maybe, or to throw something up on the screen real fast, people could scan it and get to that site. Neato. Let's see what is up next. And Alex says we use QR codes for station directions, and there's a resource link to take a look at that. Awesome, very good. The next one here an option that when you get an email that has a calendar invite, if you can't do that particular date and time that's been suggested in that invite, there's the option now to go down, well, there will be, looks like it's still, oh no, it looks like it started rolling out in mid-January. So it may be out to you by now, but you can click the more options instead of accepting or rejecting the request. You can click on more options and you can say, oh, I want to suggest a different date. And so under more options, propose a new time can pop up and you can say, well, this doesn't work, but here's another option. Now that's nice. That's a neat feature, but it brought up a question over here where Star was saying, hey, this sounds like a neat thing, but is there a way to do it more like the Doodle service that is out there? And if you're not familiar with Doodle, I know I've received several of them. That's where somebody's trying to schedule a meeting and they'll say, okay, here's 5 dates and 2 or 3 times on each date, send it out to a group of 10 people. Hey, everybody, mark the dates you can meet. And then, the organizer can look at Doodle and see, oh, well, it looks like not everybody can do everything, but we can get 8 people on this date. So that's when we're going to do the meeting. And so Star was wondering, this idea here, it's just one person sending an invite to one person and them trying to reschedule it. Is there a way to do a larger scheduling process like Doodle does? I do see we have a comment below saying this would be great, but you can currently use the suggested times in Google Calendar. And so that, I would agree, that is certainly one option to consider, that when you are first making a calendar event, if you click the suggested times option in there, anybody that you are inviting to the event, if you have access to their calendars, it'll show you whether they're busy or not. Now, I just threw a bunch of conditionals in there, right? So it's like, well, it's got to be people who have allowed you to see their calendar. If you're inviting somebody to a meeting and they haven't shared their calendar with you, or their calendar is not public, or their calendar is not shared across your domain, then unfortunately, well, it's unfortunate for you, you're not going to be able to see when they're available. But of course, it makes perfect sense for privacy. People don't want to just let anybody see their calendar. But if you're in a school where the default setting is, hey, everybody's calendars are at least visible, even if it's not the details of what they're doing, free busy shows up, using suggested times can be a nice way to be able to at least get a feel for, oh, it looks like Thursday, everybody looks like they're free in the afternoon, so I think I can do a 3 o'clock meeting. The other thing that can be unfortunate about that is all it searches for is your primary calendar. So sometimes folks will use more than one calendar. They have their primary calendar, but then they have another calendar that might be for, a committee that they're on, or another calendar that might, be for sport day coach at school. And so you may think they're free when they're really not. It could be that the suggested times is it's only going to pick up what's on their primary calendar. So I would imagine when I think about Star's question, and if anybody has answers to this, please, chime in. Other than using Doodle, which I think is probably a good option, is to go ahead and use that. What I've done, I've just used a Google form. I just go ahead and create a quick Google form and say, okay, guys, here's a list of dates and times, and I make them check boxes so people can choose more than one and not just have to pick one date and say, check whatever days and times you're available, and please try to do this afternoon so I can, get this scheduled. And then, that way you're not doing a bunch of emails. It's just one form. Everybody checks when they're available. I look at the form responses and go, well, our best bet is Monday at 2 because that's when most people are available. So that's what I usually do. I don't know, Stephanie, if you have an idea for that, or if anybody else has a suggestion for scheduling an event with a lot of people.
So one thing, I know this is not for multiple people, but you could use appointment slots with the calendar, but that would just be with, a couple people. It would be kind of nice if you could do so many people. I don't know if that is a possibility or if Google is thinking about that.
Yeah, appointment slots, you can let as many people as you want see them, but once somebody clicks on an appointment slot, they claim it. and it's per person. So yeah, at the moment, a group could see it, but no, only individual people could grab each slot.
So that would be an option if you're trying to schedule multiple meetings with just one other person. But I've used Google Forms, maybe a Google Sheet. You could have everybody, list their name, and then you could have different time slots. But I think too, use that feedback tool in Google and suggest it to Google, because they do listen.
Yeah. Jeremy says Boomerang Calendar meets some of those needs. Thanks, Jeremy. That's one I am not familiar with. That would be good to investigate. Oh my goodness, I tell you, we have so many great suggestions and ideas here today from everybody. Thank you to everybody for contributing. All right. Let's see. So where's that take us to then, Stephanie? Next one up. Looks like the email attachment one.
Yep. So this one is interesting. Google just started this, and I sent a couple emails with this. I don't know if I like it yet, but it's where you can attach an email, which is kind of difficult right now, I think, because you have to find the email and then attach it. I was trying to start an email and then attach it, and it was really hard. Like, you couldn't do it the way that I wanted to do it.
Okay.
You first had to find the email and then attach it, rather than starting the email and going the back way. But in one of the images on the website, shows that you can, how like the email is open partial of your screen, and then you could drag those 3 emails to your email, which is a nice feature.
Right.
I just keep forgetting to use it, I think, too. But I think it's kind of funny because you could be like, per my last email, and then it's attached. So then people aren't confused, and then they have to search their email. But a lot of times I feel like I just take that old email and will reply from that email.
Sure.
But I think I need to start trying to do this.
Yeah, this one was one of those things where I hadn't really thought about either, because I don't know that I have an occasion that I do this very often. So I don't know that I'm the use case scenario they're trying to hit with this. But I guess the idea is, right, if you have, and especially a number of emails, like in this GIF, they're showing 3 different emails that are all of importance to somebody, being able to grab all 3 of those emails and drag and drop them onto a new message, rather than forwarding each one of them individually, saying, hey, I need to get you caught up on something. Here's, these 3 messages that you missed before you joined the committee. Instead of going forward on each one of them, we can just grab them all, throw them together, and get them all caught up at once. So something that if it's a match for something you need, you're probably really happy about it. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had an occasion where I needed to do that, but now that it exists, it'll be in my brain, and as I'm aware of that, who knows, I may realize that that's going to be a real time saver in some cases. Awesome, good stuff. Well, let's see what we have up next. The next one that we highlighted anyway was Google added 2 more videos to their Art Zoom series. So if you're not familiar, this has been around for a while. It's not something new, but they're adding to it. So Art Zoom is part of Google Arts and Culture, where basically what Google does is they'll take a modern contemporary artist, it could be a singer, a musician, somebody who's in the arts, and has them comment on a classic painting. And so they've added 2 new entries for The Scream and for The Birth of Venus. And these videos aren't like terribly long, so they would be great to show in a class if you were studying these pieces of art, and get some interesting modern perspectives on those. If you head out to Google Arts and Culture, you can find the whole series. And I don't remember how many they have now, but I think they're around 5 or 6 or 7 of these videos that they have made, called Art Zoom, where they're basically zooming in on the details of a painting and having somebody famous sharing their perspective on it.
I think it'd be really cool if we let students do this with their artwork.
What a neat idea. Yeah, just to be inspired by that and say, let's have you do that with whatever you create, do this sort of a commentary, maybe have them watch a couple Art Zoom videos as models and be like, oh, that's a really neat way. And then they can be inspired by how Art Zoom did it. And then they can fire up Screencastify or something like that. And they can record themselves giving commentary on their artwork.
Yeah,
Oh,
or they could even partner up with a friend and do their friends art, switch
love
with a
it.
colleague. So I think this
Oh,
could be really cool. I didn't even know this existed. There's so much in Google Arts and Culture that is
yes.
like
Yeah,
mind blowing. And you have to have
right.
so much time to go through, but I'm like, that'd be a really cool art project.
I like it. That's neat. So yeah, somebody's looking to do that. You now have, a handful of videos that could serve as inspiration to kind of get the kids started and thinking about what it would be like to provide commentary on theirs or others' artwork. Cool.
And then
What's next?
the next one is interpreter mode. So this is really cool because I know there's a huge gap in our district with our EL population and some teachers and the families. Like there's just that disconnect because of that language barrier. So this is really nice. You can have your Pixel phone open and then you can use interpreter mode. You just say, hey, Google, can you be my German interpreter? And it will take whatever you say in English and then it will translate it, which is really cool, I think, because my Google phone's going crazy right now. But then
Always the
I
danger.
know,
I do the
I was
same
like, who's
thing.
speaking? I'm in the room by myself.
I do the same thing.
But yeah, I think it's going to be really helpful for those parent teacher conferences where you can be sitting in the same room and using that phone to help you have that conversation.
Now, the good thing it looks like is as long as you've got assistant, you're okay. Because they even say
Mhm.
here it's rolling out to assistant enabled Android and iOS phones. So the Google Assistant app is really the key to this one. Even if you don't, because I don't have a Pixel phone, I need to one day upgrade. I've got a Samsung Galaxy S8, so I'm a couple of generations back, but it still works. But I'm able to download the Assistant app. And so for Android and iOS phones, it looks like this is a new option to interact with the assistant and get that live interpreter back and forth. Oh, how
Yeah, and
nice.
I know this is all about Google, but Microsoft has a similar app too that I just heard about today. I
Okay.
was listening to Matt Miller's podcast,
Yeah,
and it is the translator, Microsoft Translator is what it's called.
excellent.
And so that's just another resource. I know
Right.
it's Microsoft,
Oh
but
no,
still.
whoa, no, we all play in the same sandbox together.
So I'll add that into the notes too, just
Yeah,
in case someone else needs a different resource or it works better.
that's great. Very good. All right. Well, that gets us to January. And we do have a few items from January as well. The first one in January is just heads up. The Doodle for Google contest is open for 2020. So if you have not jumped on that yet, each year Google does have a contest to design a doodle, which is the little Google logo that changes each day on the Google website that reflects somebody famous or a holiday or an event that is to be celebrated that day. Well, this year, this is their 12th annual Doodle for Google competition. And their theme this year is I show kindness by ... So it's all about acts of kindness. It is open to students K-12, and they do break it up into different grade levels so that you're competing against students of a similar age, and they have lots of scholarships and prizes that can be won throughout that. Looks like we need to have submissions in by March 13th, so still some time for people to do that. And Google does not limit what medium you use to design those Googles. It can be digital, it can be physical, whatever you want to do to make that doodle for Google. So get that on folks' radar.
Yeah, and we have a school doing the contest because their building theme is kindness this year.
Yes, the theme is kindness, yes.
And so they're all doing it just because they're called the Harmon Heroes. They're focused. That's kind of their mission. So it's been really cool. The kids are so excited. They do not allow gifts. I had a student who had this
Oh,
fantastic idea. She drew it up in Google Slides. She made this like GIF
yeah.
and it won't accept it. It's only JPEG.
Okay.
So just so everybody knows, some of the kids were trying to think outside the box, and I felt really bad because I'm like, that would have won.
That would be awesome. That's a really creative. And a lot of times the Google Doodles do that. They move and,
Yeah.
they're interactive. So I could see why you would want to do that.
Yeah, so it does only take JPEGs
Okay.
and another format, but it will not take the GIF.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And then the next one is kind of amazing because ever since I had AJ, my little, he's about 3 months, it's been very difficult to, text and do different things on my phone. So I've learned to use voice to text. And now this feature, I think I'm going to start using, read this page, and it will read the page to you. So you can be multitasking, doing other things, and then it will actually go ahead and read whatever is on your phone.
Oh, how nice. So another part of the Google Assistant looks like they're continuing to beef that up with a lot of accessibility tools. This one being, read this page. So normally I see they mentioned in the article here, the article about using Pocket to do that, which is true. That's what I normally do. I'll take an article, I'll save it to Pocket on my phone, then I'll go over to Pocket, and from Pocket, I'll use the text to speech and have it read aloud. And I do remember Google Go doing this. Yes, I even downloaded the Google Go app separately because it could do that. But the fact that this is just going to be baked into the assistant and you can just ask it to read whatever page you're on, awesome. And it's going to have little controls at the bottom, 10-second rewind, 30-second skip, pause, play.
It kind of looks like the podcasting app, I think, like how you can speed it up, slow it down.
That's really neat. I do also like how they were mentioning in here that the actual voice itself that they're going to try to use, they said I'm not familiar with this term. They said they're focusing on prosody, prosody, which is an attribute that describes stress, intonation, and rhythm to make things seem more natural. So they're creating voices that for a long reading passage would seem even more natural. So good job, Google. Looking forward to it. And I'm always, I always think about those things with the Google Tools for Struggling Students session that I do that deals with accommodations and accessibility. But the thing I try to emphasize is we're all struggling learners in one way or another. Tools, these are not, specifically for special education, for, anything. These are tools for, we're all learners who can benefit from these things. So awesome. Let's see, up next. More options for copying presentations in Google Slides. So for this one, let me pull up a slideshow here. Here we go. Here's all Google Tools for ELL. This is a slideshow that from a session I do on that. And so now if you have a slideshow that you want to make a copy of and you click the file button, when you go down to make a copy, there's now this new option that pops up over on the side. You may not have it on all of your accounts yet. So like, for example, this account is my trainer account because my work account doesn't have it yet. When I went earlier to do this today, it has not made it out to my work account. So if you don't see it, it is coming. But now if I go file, make a copy, if I say I want to copy the entire presentation, I get some checkboxes that include things like stripping out the speaker notes if I don't want those in there. Or if I don't want to copy the whole presentation, I can say, let's just hold down my control key and select 3 of the slides that I want. Now, if I've selected 3 slides and I go file, make a copy, selected slides, it's now just going to copy those 3 slides that I previously selected. I can again pull out the speaker notes if I want, but the key is I can now make a copy of just a portion of the slideshow rather than everything if I don't want to copy the whole slideshow and then go back and delete things, which is what I normally do. So, all right. So that's a cool update for slides. All right, next up.
Let's see here. We are at what, the Chrome apps?
Well, looks like we're on breaking out a value within a pie chart in Google Sheet.
So this looks kind of interesting. So you'll have your data in a Google Sheet, and then you're able to pull out different data. I think this will help visualize the difference in different percentages, and it might help as you're analyzing your data.
Oh, neat. Yeah. So if you've got a pie chart and you go to customize, pie slice is now an option, and you can pick the slice you want to adjust, and then you can pop it in or out of from the center so that it kind of pops out there. That's cool.
I think this would look really good on a presentation that you're trying to
Does
give.
it work 3D? Oh, it works 3D too. Look at that.
There we go.
Oh, how nice. I like it. Yeah, that's cool. That'll really make your pie charts really stand out there. Neat. All right, next one up is one I did come across this a little bit back here in an email is how it came to me. And I'm trying to remember why I even got it, but it caught my eye because it was from Curriculum Pathways, the email, and I know that they're the folks who make SAS Writing Reviser. So the company, Curriculum Pathways, or the, well, I don't know if the company is SAS and Curriculum Pathways is one of their big products, but they're retiring their suite of Curriculum Pathways products. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I know they make the tool called SAS Writing Reviser, which is a tool that you can use to do like grammar checks on your document. And I was like, I wonder, will this affect SAS Writing Reviser? And so I went down through their FAQ and I was so sad to see that, yes, it does affect that too. So it's like so many of these different, they've got a lot of tools that they create, and Writing Reviser is one of them, and it is included in here that, yes, they are discontinuing that add-on. And that's unfortunate. I really like that one a lot. If I go to add-ons, I think I've still got it installed here. SAS Writing Reviser, there it is. And if I open it up, basically what it does is it gives you a panel over on the side where it gives you 25 different tests you can run, like wordiness, passive voice, simple sentences, sentence fragments, all of these different, weak verbs, and it will run a test on your essay or story or whatever, and give you feedback on how to improve all of these 25 different areas. So, I mean, there's a lot of neat grammar tools, and I do have a blog post in a session that talks about, all of these different self-editing tools. But that was one of them I really liked in it. There's still a lot of other ones that are out there, and we'll take advantage of those. But nothing quite did all the stuff that Writing Reviser did. So it was always nice to have it as another tool in the toolbox. So sorry, guys, July 15th, that will no longer function. So just heads up. It's going to be heading to the graveyard of tech tools here. So, all right. And next up, yes, the Chrome apps is the next one there.
Yep. So on the Chrome apps, we used to use this all the time. So going over to your toolbar, going to the apps area, and I haven't used this in a while. I don't know if it's just because I've forgot about it, but they have a timeline for how they're going to stop kind of accepting new Chrome apps. Developers will be able to update existing Chrome apps through June 22. And so they're just kind of giving you a timeline of when they're coming to an end of the support of Chrome apps on Chrome OS for all customers.
Boy, I remember when they announced that. It's been a little while back, maybe I don't know if they say in here when it was originally announced, 2016. Yeah, back in 2016, they announced that they were going to be killing off Chrome apps. And it looks like we finally have an official date, June of 22 is going to be the end of those. Chrome apps were always kind of a unique thing because if you go to the Chrome Web Store, like you had said, if you go to the Chrome Web Store, now when I go there, all I see is extensions, and themes. But if you go there on a Chromebook, you could still see apps listed. Mm-hmm. And but you have to be on a Chromebook to see the apps section. But now they're saying they're going to even discontinue that. So Chrome apps were, a lot of times they were just fancy ways to get to a website, so the Chrome app, for something like Flipgrid was just a fancy link to get you to Flipgrid. So for a lot of folks, they're like, well, what's the big deal? You're not losing those tools. You just no longer have a cute little Chrome app to click on to get to it. You just have to bookmark it. The thing is, there was a percentage, not a big percentage, but there was a percentage of Chrome apps that were actually standalone tools. They weren't websites. They were actually a tool that would pop up and, was self-contained. And so that's why they've given so much time here before they discontinue these, so that whoever developed those can choose how they want to handle it now. Do they need to make a website that does what the standalone tool used to do? Do they want to convert it into an extension and have it actually be an extension that you do now instead? And so, for example, one of our Q&A things later is about Google Cast. Well, Google Cast is now an extension. If I click Google Cast, it pops up this Google Cast window where I can let other people project their computer to my screen. Google Cast was a web app. That's an example of what a web app was. And the only way you could get to it in the past was you would go to the apps button and you would go find, Google Cast in your list of web apps, and you would launch it from there. Well, Google converted it from a web app to a web extension so that as the apps go away, you can still use it. So my guess is there are going to be some really cool tools that whoever developed them just doesn't have the time or the energy or the money or the interest in converting them. And so eventually when that date comes, that June 2020, there will be some Chrome apps that just ride off into the sunset and we don't have an actual replacement for them. But so if there are schools that are still relying on that, please be aware. If your kids are going to their Chromebooks and they're going to the apps launcher and they're launching certain, Chrome apps, those are going to go away as of June 22. All right. All right. Let's see. What do we have next here? The Originality reports and the rubrics in Classroom are coming out of beta. So for those who did not join the beta, good news, you'll now have access to these two tools. For those who really love originality reports, bad news, they're coming out of beta, which means they're no longer going to be unlimited. They were unlimited usage during the beta. So let me explain what we mean by that. So these two main tools we're talking about here, one is rubrics, which basically in Classroom, you can now create a rubric to go along with any assignment and then use that rubric to grade the assignment. There have been a lot of tools that have done this, Orange Slice, Gubrick, RaiQ, different tools like that. Well, now we have a rubric natively built right into Classroom so that you can create a rubric, copy it, share it, export it, import it into another classroom, and use it over and over and over again when grading students' assignments. Thumbs up, awesome, great. The other tool is what they call originality reports. And basically that's like if you've ever used like turnitin.com, one of those services to check for plagiarism. Basically an originality report takes a student's document and it checks it against the entire internet and sees, does it match other things on the internet, and have they properly cited where those things came from, or did they copy paste things into the document and not properly cite it or put it into their own words? Well, the idea behind originality reports is not a gotcha kind of thing. The idea is for the students to run them themselves so that they can check on their own writing and be like, oh boy, this report is telling me I obviously did not cite that properly. I need to go back in and make sure I've got my proper, footnote or whatever endnote in there. But then the teachers can also run them as well to check on student documents. Here's where the gotcha comes in. And remember, we had the conversation earlier about G Suite Enterprise. So here's one of them. Stephanie had mentioned that originality reports are one of the benefits of the paid version of G Suite for Education. So the way it works is if you're like 99.9% of probably every school out there and you're using the free version of G Suite for Education, there will be a limit. You will be able to run 3 originality reports per Google class per year. So if you've got 5 Google classes, each one of them, you can run 3 originality reports. That's 15, times you can do that. So each class though has a limit of 3 assignments that you can use this on. So you might pick, like, if it's a class where you've got a really big term paper at semester break, and then you've got a big paper near the end of the year, and then you just want to do one early in the year. That's more of an example for the kids to get used to how this works. You may say those are the 3, one where we kind of figure it out, one at semester break, and one near the end of the year. I would imagine there's going to be some folks that are like, Well, then I'm just going to make more classes. I'm going to do semester 1 and semester 2. I think you could do that. I don't know. I don't see why that would be a problem. Then you would get double the originality reports. You could just, make a new Google Classroom each 9 weeks or make a new one at semester break. I know some people already do that, not to try to get around anything like that, but because of grades, because they want to have, they don't want the grades to accumulate throughout the whole year. They want, each 9 weeks to have its own unique grade at the end of that 9 weeks. So that's something to consider. But if you pay for G Suite Enterprise, you have unlimited use of originality reports. So just heads up, you're allowed to use them, but it's going to be limited to 3. Because it's coming out of beta, that's why we're going to get that limitation now. During the beta period, there was not any limitation. And it looks like we're getting a date of around February 3rd for when it's starting to roll out. So that would be the end of that beta. Anything to add to that, Stephanie?
I think you covered it. It will also search for other students like in the class or previous years, I believe, too, in the originality reports.
So that is part, but only Enterprise.
Yeah.
Only Enterprise gets that. You are right. So right now, the free version limits you to 3 of them a year, and it is a search against the internet, like it's searching your document against every web page out there. With the Enterprise version, they can also do one where you just search against, I don't know if it's and or, but you are able to search against previously submitted work from other students. So basically, year after year after year, as more and more students submit things, you're building your own domain-wide database of previously submitted writings. So if there's, unfortunately, a student who's like, oh, my older sibling took this class 2 years ago, I'm just going to submit, what they wrote. Well, it would catch that because it would be comparing that against what was submitted previously. So, but that is just going to be for Enterprise.
Yep. All right.
All right, what's up next?
Next one is creativity apps. So this is really exciting because we use WeVideo to help with the video creation. So we buy so many licenses, and then it's based on seats. So if one class is using it during a semester, they can use those seats if 30 students, and then let's say next semester they don't need it, we can take those 30 seats and give them to another class. So I kind of like the way that WeVideo allows that. We have Book Creator in our elementaries and we pay for that, but in our middle school, we just use the free version. And so a lot of these websites, there's free, like the Squid one and the Painter, but some of them, there are paid versions of them, and you'll have to buy like a subscription for it to have those different sites. And you can now manage them in the Google admin console. So you can go and you can decide, which grade, what apps, and do you turn it on or off those licenses based on what that group of students need. And then you can also see the license usage for that different website.
Yeah. I think Google is trying to answer the question or trying to address the concern that I hear people say sometimes, can you be creative on a Chromebook? Well, I mean, the answer is yes. I know the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Probably everybody listening to this knows that. But I think sometimes there's that preconceived idea that, well, if you want to be creative, you need an iPad. And I'm not dissing iPads at all. Again, we all play in the same sandbox together. Anything that helps students learn and create, I am all in favor of. But you do hear that sometimes like, oh, well, if you want to be creative, you got to buy them iPads. You can't be creative on a Chromebook. And that's just unfortunate that that thought would permeate and would exist, because a Chromebook can do amazing things as well. And this is, I think, Google trying to address that a little bit, saying, okay, we're going to find for you some of the best creativity apps out there, and we're going to package them together in a lower cost. Now, I don't know what the costs are. It looks like you have to do the contact us thing and say, hey, I'm interested in buying these. I did not, as I looked through the site, ever come across something that just flat out said, and this is the price that it'll be. But the point is, it's a package. Here's these creativity apps. You can get, the Infinite Painter for artwork, Squid for notes and diagrams, Book Creator, again, the paid version rather than the free version. WeVideo, wonderful for video editing, Soundtrap for music and podcast, Explain Everything for screencasts. And so it allows you to be able to purchase these at a reduced cost, and then, like you said, manage them through the admin console so that people can, easily give the apps to the different grades that need them, and hopefully address that question about, can you be creative on a Chromebook? Yes, you can. Here are some awesome tools that you can use for that. Yeah, very good. All right, clean up a couple of my tabs here. And that brings us to, speaking of Chromebooks, now we get a lot more life out of them. So this blog post was saying, hey, heads up, Google is going to be extending the amount of years that Chromebooks are supported. I think by now, many of us have Chromebooks that have gone outside of that window, and basically those Chromebooks still function, but they no longer get updates. So like, I got some of those really old silver Samsungs from, way back. Well, they don't get updates anymore. And you could say, well, that's okay. I'll still use that Chromebook, but now I just don't get updates. Well, unfortunately, that opens up some security holes, and that's probably not a good idea to be using a Chromebook that's not getting security updates. Plus, some things will stop, functioning the way they should. Well, in the past, I think, what was it? Google said, oh, we'll support a Chromebook for like 3 years or something with guaranteed updates. And school's like, yeah, that's not a lot of time. And so now it looks like the newest ones are getting up to 8 years of support. So that's wonderful. When you think about having a Chromebook last 8 years, any device, I don't care what laptop it is, if you put it in the hands of students, usually we're like, hey, we can get 5 years out of that. That's pretty solid. We would love to be able to do that, but now hearing that we're going to get, extended life on a lot of Chromebooks, and even up to 8 years is certainly a benefit for schools. So I'm really glad to see that. Oh yes, and there are a couple other caveats with it. The license is being renamed. Yes, you are right, and they are increasing the cost of the license. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that too. Along with the 8 years of coverage, the fact that it's extending the life of it, the base cost, it used to be $30 for a management license. It's now going to be $38. Now, that doesn't mean you're really going to pay $38 because that's just the suggested price. I don't know, anytime we've bought through any of the resellers, CDWG or whoever, it's typically less than that. And so it probably won't be $38. It'll be, 34, 36, 30 something, but it won't be, what it used to be, which was $30 per license. And right, it's not being called a Chromebook management license anymore. It's being called a Chrome Education Upgrade. So good to know. All right, let's see. What's up next, Stephanie? Looks like we're getting close to the end of our updates here.
Yeah, it looks like the Translate app.
Okay.
So this will take your translation and it will kind of, put it into a document, and then you could record it and review it at a later time, or to see what you've missed. It looks like you can also make the text, customized, so like bigger or smaller, which might help with that accessibility.
Yeah.
And then you can choose a theme. And you could show the original text of what was there, and then after the translate.
Yeah, so this one looks very, let's see, what was the name of the app? Let me check real quick on my phone, because I've got this app on my phone. I think we even shared this a couple months ago. Google has an app called, here's Live Transcribe. That's what it was called. Yeah. So Google has an app called Live Transcribe, which is its own standalone app. And this is what it does. Basically, well, this goes further now, but Live Transcribe is an app that listens and basically closed captions life. And I tried this out. I was at a dinner with a bunch of folks, and I clicked on live transcribe and I set the phone down in the middle of the table. And as everybody was talking, it was basically closed captioning our entire conversation. It would just on the phone, you could see this running list of everybody speaking. And it did a really good job of picking folks up. So it looks like what Google's doing is they're taking that live transcribe feature and now they're putting it inside of the Google Translate app. So it's doing captioning, but it's doing translation at the same time. So while somebody is speaking, it's going to close caption everything they're saying, and it's going to translate it into the language you want. Very nice. Very, very nice. Love it. All right. I do see a couple of comments. We'll probably want to swing back and check a couple of those. But the last one that I had here, and then I'll throw this back over to you, is Google has launched a site called Tangi.
Yeah, this looks really cool.
Tangi? Tangi. It's a website where you're allowed to put up videos, but they can only be 1 minute long at the longest. And they have to be on topics such as art, cooking, DIY, fashion, and lifestyle. So it sounds like at first glance, maybe that's a little bit outside of just education, more like, personal use. But I don't know. You think about art, you think about having art students wanting to do some really cool art projects. Well, here's all of these videos that are about creating art projects, but they have to be no more than 1 minute long. So what a neat way to give kids a really short, quick video showing how to do like an art project that then they can go ahead and follow and do. And even if this is mostly, art and things like that, I still like the whole idea of a 1 minute video. Maybe this could also serve as a inspiration for having students make their own 1 minute videos where they explain something. So maybe it's a concept from science class or summarizing a story and just saying, watch these videos here and see how these, creators boil something down into 1 minute or less. And then can you do the same thing? Can you explain something that concisely in just 1 minute? So even if you don't use the site as content that it could just be inspiration, but it definitely could be useful in a art class.
Yeah, and I think too with the makerspace movement getting really popular, maybe this could be added to it.
Good point. Yeah, the DIY
and then,
stuff.
Yeah, you could do some challenges, I'm sure, and then have kids create their own, just like you said.
I like it. All right, what's our last one here then, Stephanie?
So the last one is Hangout Meets. They're now giving an option to use your phone for audio. So you can still get on during a call using your computer, but you could use your phone rather than your computer audio. And I think Abid said he is from London, and I think he was saying that it's useful, if you're in the US. However, some places might need that. It's only for United States numbers.
Okay.
Since we do have some international friends tuning in.
Well, this is interesting. So I have a colleague here who was mentioning this to me just the other day, and his take on it was he was saying, might this be useful if you were doing a Hangout where you had a group of people in a room together? So a lot of times we'll do that. We'll have, one location connecting to another location, and it's just, two locations connecting, but it's not two people. It's like, oh, I'm in this room with 30 people and we've got our connection to this other room. And what if different people would like to speak during the meeting? Well, you could have a phone, have that connected to the Hangout, and just pass the phone around the room anytime somebody needed to speak. And anybody in the room would be able to very easily be heard because it's like just, it's like a microphone on a really long, cord. Now the phone can just be basically a wireless mic that you can pass around the room so anybody can talk. Or if you were doing a mystery location hangout between your school and another school, or you were doing, a mystery, career or something like that, and you were connecting with somebody who was on the other end, all the different students in your class, rather than having to walk up to the computer to speak into the microphone, you could just pass the phone around.
It would capture that audio a lot better. Dan also said that some of the teachers might have a desktop computer and they don't have a microphone or speakers plugged into those computers. So now they're able to connect.
Very good. Well, let's go ahead and see. It looks like we've got a couple of comments in here. I want to make sure we didn't miss any of them. I think we hit a lot of them there. I do see there was a note put in about App Maker being shut down. Now, I've not used App Maker. I don't know if any schools have. I remember when it came out being, touted as an easy way to create apps from Google. The note we have here is that AppSheet was purchased and the App Maker creator is a Googler now. The issue with App Maker was the difficulty in getting people to start using it. AppSheet is a simple start, and with the power of App Maker behind it, we'll see some amazing products. All right, so even though App Maker is being shut down, AppSheet looks like a worthy successor that is a little simpler to use and hopefully will get more traction. Thank you for sharing that. All right, well, if we missed anything during this portion, we definitely will ask you guys to throw some questions or comments in there. Having said that, we want to be sensitive to the time that we have left here, and we also want to make sure that Alex gets a chance to chat with us here. And I want to make sure, I don't know if, I don't think Alex has jumped. Yes, Alex has jumped in. I do believe Alex has jumped in. I've been trying to keep an eye on the Zoom numbers here. And so what we're going to do is going to go ahead and take a little bit of time and make sure that Alex can go ahead and share with us. And then we will circle back and try to catch some of the other things that we have here, because we do want to talk about, some of the fun show and tell items that we have. And then we got some awesome, great Q&A things here. But we absolutely want to give Alex time to share with us. And so, Alex, if you want, go ahead and give us maybe an introduction about, who you are and what you're doing. And we'd love to have you share with us here today.
Great. Thank you, Eric and Stephanie. So recently I had a chance to talk with Stephanie on her podcast, Get Inspired and Innovate. And we had talked about some ways to increase student mastery and show higher level thinking skills. So just some background on me. I'm a technology integration specialist in Cuyahoga Falls. That's in Ohio. And so my role as an integration specialist is to increase students' technology competencies through professional development of integration strategies. But like my philosophy for using technology in school is engaging students to become creators, use higher level thinking skills, and promote student choice. So back when I was an educator in the classroom, I taught 6th grade math, and I continually found resources that I would want to use with my students. And so as a way to save them, I would just put them on a website, kind of save them for my own use, but then share them sporadically with my colleagues. And over time, I kept trying to find ones that would increase my students' higher level thinking skills. So through time and all these different resources, I started putting together, as I was learning about the SAMR model, which SAMR model basically means instead of just using tech for tech's sake, SAMR, the S would be using tech as just a pure substitute. And what that means is then you would, instead of typing, instead of writing a paper, you would type it out. And so to kind of illustrate that, the resource link I have, it's linked there. I kind of started to put these together in like my own little puzzle piece matrix as a way just to share with my staff how they could use different apps or programs and reach different levels of thinking skills. So I was kind of talking about, instead of just writing a paper, substitution of a handwritten paper would be typing it on a Google Doc. Well, that doesn't really get you very far for increasing higher level thinking skills using technology. But we all know a Google Doc, you could then share it. and you could peer edit it. And there's other apps that allow you to start a paper, and then the next person can use writing, and then all the way up to like peer grade and flip snap. So I'm going to click on this link. This is the first one I've done, but it kind of explains what the SAMR model is and how substitution occurs, some pros and cons, and then ways that you can use those same tech skills, but use different options in different apps to reach what's called redefinition.
Well, that is excellent. I know we talk a lot about SAMR in a lot of trainings. That is a common thing to come up, and to make it practical though is, I think, so important, because so many times it can feel kind of abstract. So I get the idea of moving from substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition, but what does it actually mean? What does it look like? So you've done this for an awful lot of tools, but you're saying, as far as then doing the part where you really write out the examples, the handwritten papers is the first one you've begun with on that?
Yeah, so again, each of these are pages. So each icon kind of will take you to an example of student work. So for example, I'm going to use hand-drawn image as an example. And I'll go up to storyboard that, which is one we have some of our middle schoolers use. So this is the original page. I would kind of find a tool that I liked, maybe write some directions about it, collect some student examples. And then as I continued doing this, I was thinking of different ways our teachers could use these tech tools, and also ways that we could use higher level thinking skills. So that's where this grid kind of got pieced together. And I want to make it clear, the grid, these should not be locked into, just because, I put slides down here as substitution. Slides could be way more than that. So I always kind of talk about in my presentations that it's about the use, not the app itself. And so you could use a lot of these different tools. Slides, you could come over here as an assessment if you do it with Pear Deck, or you could take, Google Classroom, and you could bring it in, over to discussion. But kind of in their most common use and the way we use them, I kind of put them in this box just as a way for teachers to kind of look at it and not be overwhelmed, but have a place to start. So if they keep hearing their administrators talk about depth of knowledge, and they want to find different tools to increase those levels, they might jump onto this, look at some student examples, and see if it fits for their classroom.
I love how you provide student examples. I think that really helps educators and students, because then they can say, okay, this is what an exemplar looks like, and this is what I should aim to try to do.
Thank you. So the other thing we do this a lot with, and kind of the way I pieced it together, I'm a big proponent in student choice, and not necessarily letting students do whatever they want for a project, but instead of giving them one option to show mastery and always being the way you want to see it, to give them a few options, and that way they can choose whether they want to explore a new tool, if they like video creation. And a lot of times the example I'll use is simply just give them two options. And if it's to retell a story, some students might just want to rewrite the story, and some students might want to make a video or a cartoon. So some of the tools on here, teachers can look at this and kind of click through and decide, okay, this might be a choice I want to show to my students. So we use WeVideo a lot. WeVideo is a simple online video editor. So they might click on the page, look at a few of the resources, look at some examples, and then decide, is that something they want to allow their students to choose to show their mastery? And I encourage my teachers, when you make your rubric, you don't need to include the tool. You want to include the skills that you're trying to see from your kids that they've mastered on your content. And it shouldn't matter how they show it to you, as long as they can show it to you. So whether it's through writing, making a video, an example podcast, whatever the case may be, if we give the students a few choices, it increases their motivation. A lot of times we get better products, and it actually, a lot of the teachers like how they're not grading the same dry thing all the time. They're getting more and more from their students.
Yeah, that's a really good point to to encourage teachers to, give that student choice. Just like you're saying, yeah, if we say, hey, everybody, we're going to do a 3-paragraph essay, and that's what everybody's going to do, might be, you might be able to grade through them kind of quick because there are a lot of consistency there, but it's also the same thing over and over and over again. What an awesome way to, encourage that variety, and as a teacher to get to see so many different products.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and like you just mentioned a 3-paragraph essay. I don't want language teachers to then be throwing their book across the room, because they still have to include a lot of the writing skills, even to make a video.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, this is actually built on a Google site. It's usually how I choose to present. But we have students use Google Sites. We had mentioned, sorry, you guys mentioned earlier, all the updates to Google Sites. Well, a lot of times we'll have our students use Google Sites to turn in let's say a multifaceted project. So this one, oh, sorry. Sometimes our students change some settings. I'll click up to this one. Oh no. Well, let me explain, I guess I should say. These are all student examples of Google Sites, but what they've done is they've included multiple tiered and multiple tech skills. They would be writing on those sites. They would be, let's see if this one, there we go. They'd be writing on the site. They'd be including pictures. They would maybe create a video or find a video that helps explain their concept. And this was kind of an entry-level project where each group took a different world problem, and then together they collaborated to create a page that they would then share with their classmates. And we kind of propose it as, think of a 6th grader in a different state that might search for tsunami mitigation, and they might find your page. So we included a lot of those built-in skills. So a language arts teacher doesn't need to be turned off by giving student choice. They could just have it be part of their assignment as like a menu. Choice boards are very popular, and so are menus, where like a student does a few things and they piece together parts to make an entire project.
Oh, that is awesome. It's a wonderful, like I said, practical way to, look at SAMR and look at these different types of projects and really see what an end result could look like, what a project could look like. Really definitely going to include this in stuff that I share on SAMR. I can see that really helping people to make this much more practical.
Thank you. And I'm always looking for things that we use. I don't just want to put something on there that I've heard about or that, I saw a post on. I try to try it first, see what works for us, try to include student examples if I can, and then, share it out when possible. And the other part of this I just wanted to mention real quick is that, a lot of these tools are built in Google, right? So we've got Google Docs and Sheets and Sites, and many others are Google enabled logins. So you would just log in with your Google account. But I always want to caution teachers that, we've got to be careful about the SIPA and COPA compliance. So one of the things I did, it's actually at the bottom of this page too, is when I either get an update or see an update, I'll try to document it here that has each of the apps that or websites that we're using and or thought about using, and then looking at their laws, especially for those under 13. So for example, we have some high school students that'll use Anchor to create a podcast. Well, my 6th graders should not be using Anchor because in their privacy policy, they say they should not. Some apps like Actively Learn say that they can if they have parent or guardian consent. So I try to update this as well. If I see an email from, one of these apps that says they've updated, I'll kind of click in, check to make sure that this part hasn't updated. But this is a good tool for our teachers or anybody who's looking to stay COPA and SIPA compliant.
Yeah, I like how you keep that updated because there's so many changes and it's so hard to keep up with all the different websites.
Yeah, that's very valuable. I know that question comes up a lot with schools, and what a nice, easy place to go. Now, the dates that you have there, they look like they're hyperlinked. Does that take
Yeah,
you?
so if you were to click, I was going to scroll, I just did one the other day. If you click on any of the dates, it actually takes you to that page so that you can find it and look at,
Perfect.
again, these are only related to terms of use and the privacy policies related to student use and the age of 13. So I don't remember which one I just updated, but if we just clicked on this one, this was the last time that they had an update out.
Gotcha.
And if I didn't see one, then there's a good one to update.
Awesome.
So, all right.
Well, again, thank you so much for sharing that, all of that. That's fantastic. To make sure that everybody can get to this, certainly if they're already in our document,
Yep.
if they scroll to the bottom, they're going to be able to access the resource link you have there. In general, though, it looks like, would they be able to go through your website?
Sure.
Also?
So yeah, that's where I started collecting
Okay.
like some of those posts and resources. So if they went to mroristech.com,
Okay.
they should find the homepage, which it's right there on the homepage. And then they could contact me on Twitter at Mr. Oris Tech or the email address mroristech@gmail.com.
It looks like you've got some upcoming presentations here. What are some things, where will you be and what will you be doing?
So at the Ohio Educational Technology Conference in just a couple weeks, I'll be presenting Activate Your Learners with Tech. So some of those same ideas, but that's looking at how we can transform our students from being passive in the classroom and to make them active through technology. And then the other one at Neotech in March. And then when they send out the calendar for the ITIP Ohio Google Summit, we'll be talking about the tech effect on achievement. So what tech tools or what strategies, more strategies actually have a role on achievement with technology.
Excellent. And then as you listened in to things we were sharing earlier, was there anything that you wanted to comment on from any of the updates or any of the topics, anything that you saw that you wanted to jump in on? And you certainly can hang out with us for the rest of the time and jump in as well. But I just wanted to give you a moment if there's something
Sure.
that you felt you wanted to reference or comment on.
Yeah, the only thing I added, I just had a teacher yesterday that told me one of her lessons went really well because we used QR codes around her room to basically give station directions. So if you've ever tried to do stations with your class, you know you might give the directions to everybody at once, send them to their stations, and then you have to go around and repeat those directions every single time to every single group at every single station. So what she did is she created a, whether it's through Flipgrid or just a video, she read the directions to the group, created a video, and then posted a QR code on the wall at that station so that they can scan it with their Chromebook or their smart device and listen to those directions again. And we actually hung a poster that looks like this. So they scanned the directions, and then there was a second part where they would scan for the resource if it was to go to a web page or if it was to go, you know, look at a series of pictures that would help them with their that part of their station. So I included that in there.
Thank you. That's excellent.
And since you two are experts, I just got to know, because I just found this the other day. Do you use Windows V as a shortcut?
No.
No, I don't.
Okay, so I must have stumbled on this, and I don't know if anybody out there is using it. But I typically would go, you know, select some text. I don't think I could do it on your screen, Eric, but the idea is you select some text and you would copy it.
Mhm.
And then there's another thing you want to copy, but you'd have to copy and paste and go back and copy and paste. Well, the tool, it's called Clipboard History. It's built into Windows 10. And if you went to your display settings, this little GIF will show you, if you go to display settings, choose clipboard and turn on this clipboard history, you can copy multiple items. And then when you want to paste, instead of Control V, you use Windows V, and then you could choose from your clipboard history what things you want to paste. And I use that all the time now. So there is one for Chrome. It's called Clipboard History Pro. And what that does, it just stores all of your copies so that you can go back and choose which ones you want to paste when.
Well, that's really neat. I know years ago, we used to have a feature in Chrome that unfortunately sometimes Google, gets rid of things. But actually, I should say in Chrome, but in the Docs slide sheets suite, and that was the web clipboard. And so we used
Yes.
to be able to go up and go, edit, copy, or edit, copy to web clipboard, and then you could copy it, like you said, as many things as you wanted, and they were stored, in the web, in the cloud for you. And so until I think there was like they would eventually expire if you didn't. I think it was like a 30-day expiration or something on them. But the point is, not only could I access all the different things that I had copied, I could go to a different computer. And as long as I'm logged into my Google account, my web clipboard followed me. It was so nice, and they killed it. They got rid of it.
Well, actually, that I haven't used it very much to try it like that, but clipboard history does have that where you can go between computers.
How
And
nice.
because it's a tool, an add-on in your web browser,
Yeah.
as long as you're logged into that account,
Yeah.
you can access your clipboard history. But I just copy and paste so much from resource to resource or to create, new assignments. I thought, man, to be able to copy 2 or 3 things, then go and paste them one at a time, such a time saver.
Well, I'm going to try that out. And I see Dan threw in the chat that just pressing the Windows V key seems to pop up an option to ask if you want to turn it on, if you don't have
Ooh,
it
nice,
turned
Dan.
on. So that would even let you not even have to dig through the settings to turn it on.
Right, even
So,
easier.
very good. Well, Alex, thank you again so much. Those are all such valuable resources. I have really been inspired by what you shared here today, and I'm certainly going to share this on to others. And I look forward to seeing you at all these conferences.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Great.
Keep up the great work.
Well, thank you for being a part of it, because, like I said, everybody here today who has contributed has made this a much better meeting than the two of us could have done on our own. And so Stephanie and I thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
Yep, thank you. Take care.
All right. Well, let's decide how we want to finish the rest of our time, because we are going to again try to be be sensitive to people's schedules, and we always say that we won't go over 2 hours. Sometimes it's only an hour and a half, sometimes hour 45, but 3 o'clock would be our official end. So we do have a little bit of time here, about 20 minutes left. So I think we would like to at least touch on a couple of things. The 2 things we would normally do at this point would be the Q&A, show and tell. Now, clearly we don't have enough time to get through every single thing in both. So maybe we'll pick just a couple things out of show and tell that really stood out to us this last month, and we can highlight those. Basically, show and tell is where we share some neat Google extension or a neat blog we came across or a neat project. And so if there's some in there, Stephanie, that you think, you would really like to mention, think about that. I'll do the same thing, see which, 2 of those perhaps or so that we would want to mention. And then with Q&A, wow, we have never had this many things in Q&A before. We'll try to take a look at a couple of those and see if we can provide some feedback now. If not, which we will run out of time, we will definitely go through these afterwards and add in some comments. And then other people that are, in the meeting, you can do the same. This is an editable document. It will turn into a comment-only document later, but you can always leave comments then to answer some of these. So with show and tell, Stephanie, were there some things that you really were excited about in particular that you would like to draw attention?
Yeah, I'm going to share 3 of them
Okay.
real quick. So Stop, Breathe, Listen is like a meditation website, and it's just free for educators. So I just wanted to share that resource. I thought it was really cool. I know there's other websites that also have this free for educators, like with the meditation. And so I just thought people could sign up if you're interested.
Oh, that's wonderful. I am definitely in my own life trying to incorporate a lot more mindfulness. Just went to a meditation session last night, actually. And trying to do more of that and trying to get a lot more, of mindfulness and stuff into my life. So thank you. And that is free for educators.
Lifetime membership. And then the next one I wanted to share was the writing roadmap. One of my teachers created this and I thought it was really cool. She used Google, I believe, Draw. And what she did with it is she made like a game show thing. And we found the template on Twitter. I forget who shared it.
Okay.
But using the template, she mapped out her writing. And I just thought it was really cool how she did it because she thought of everything. And I think sometimes we assume students know when they don't. So for example, they start and they have to think of a topic of their paragraph, and they have to brainstorm ideas, and they have to think of a hook, their thesis. And I love how she puts teacher check-ins in. And then she also put in, add to transition words. We assume students are going to do that, and then they don't. And then we get upset. So I love how she kind of put that in her roadmap as like, you need to stop and do that. And then she also had the parents edit the work, and she had like a different page for them to do that. And then she reminded them, use spell check, use Google Read and Write. And I just thought it was a really good idea because so often we just think students know what to do with their writing and they don't think about all those little steps.
That is such a thorough process. And I love how some of these are hyperlinks as well. So it'll take them to additional resources on those. Excellent.
And then the final thing, this just came out, I think last night. Clay Smith, he was part of the London cohort, and he created his Google Innovator project, and he is using the Google Assistant, and he has an action where it now says create a document called, and you can do all this by using your own voice, and it will create documents, it sounds like. So he's looking for beta testers.
Oh, that's awesome. So some custom Google Assistant actions like create a document, announce to my class, and then that will do exactly that. Oh, that's
And
cool.
he is like a genius, so I'm sure it works.
Oh, that's wonderful. So he's looking for people to try this out right now?
Yeah, so he's kind of in the testing phase of his project to make sure it works, to get feedback on what teachers need. If he needs to create more actions for the Google Assistant, he probably would do that. So he's just kind of looking for any honest feedback and people that can test it out to make sure it's going to work pretty well.
Oh, that's so neat. Very excited to. Yep, there we go. Here's, please consider joining the beta test. Awesome. Well, those are really neat. I will clean up a few of my tabs here because again, I end up getting too many tabs open. A couple that I might mention here that, caught my eye over the last month or so. I'll just mention two of them real quick here. One is the picture-in-picture extension for Chrome. So this is an extension that gives you an easier way to do something that's been kind of hidden away. It's been there, it's existed, but it was kind of hidden away, and that is to pop open a video outside of YouTube so it floats on top of everything else. Now, you could do this in the past. So like if I head over to YouTube, and we'll just grab whatever comes up here. Find something hopefully appropriate. Here we have a puppy, can't go wrong with a puppy, right? Okay. So we'll skip our ad here once this gets past. There we go. So in the past, if you had a video and you wanted to pop it out, you could right click 2 times on the video. And so it was kind of buried away. Right click once, right click a second time, and then picture in picture would pop up. You could click on that and it would pop that video out. And now that video would float on top of everything. And whoops, if I can grab the corner of it, you can make it bigger, smaller, but it would actually float above everything else. You could watch the video while doing work. So if you're watching an instructional video and then trying to work on it, you could follow the directions while working on it, or taking notes on a video. You could be typing up the directions while watching it. So that has always existed, But the problem was, you know, knowing it was there, and I think folks just didn't realize it. So this extension, picture in picture, just makes it a lot easier. Basically, as long as you have the extension, you go to any YouTube video and just click the extension and it will pop it right out for you. Very simple, instead of having to do that double right click, and just an easier way to get to that. And then the other one I was going to mention was that Screencastify, which I've talked about so many times. I talk a lot about it, and I think we mentioned it already today a couple of times. They have updated their pricing, and this was something that we knew was coming for a while, because if you're a Screencastify user over the last maybe 6 months, you probably noticed you'd go in to use it and it would say different things about like what the free version could do. Like for a while, they were going to limit how many videos you could, you know, do in a month. So it was like, okay, you can only do 50 videos a month, and then they were going to limit how many you could save in a month, and they were, you know, kind of like ABC testing different things. Well, what they wound up with, I think, is a wonderful. So if they had to make a change, hats off to them. They've made a really good change here. So basically, Screencastify, you can still, you know, purchase it as normal if you want the, you know, the full unlimited version. But the free version of Screencastify, it now does have a limit that's a little shorter on how long the videos can be. They can only be 5 minutes long. It used to be 10 minutes, but that's okay. I don't have any problem with that, because 5 minutes is probably fine for most videos anyway. And if you need more, just make a second or third video. But what's wonderful about it is they've now removed all of the restrictions other than just the fact that it's a 5-minute video, which means you've now picked up the premium features. Like, for example, you can now trim your videos and, you know, do editing to them that you couldn't do in the past because that was a premium feature. The ability to export it as a GIF, so you can make animated GIFs out of your videos. No watermark on the video, things like that that were part of the paid version are now included in the free version. So no watermark, export as a GIF if you want, trim, you know, do some trimming and editing to your videos. And really the only restriction now is 5 minutes in length. Still definitely nice to, you know, to consider the unlimited version if you need to make, you know, longer videos than that. But for education especially, oh my gosh, being able to do these quick 5-minute videos and have all the extra features is really exciting. So thanks to Screencastify for where they landed on that change. I think that was
and we tried it with some students. You do have to click a button if you've already had Screencastify, and it says like continue to the light, just so you are aware. It is okay to click that button and you will get all those other features. The students will lose access to the 10-minute video. And we did have a kid get upset because he's a video game kiddo and he likes to record those games. So just be aware that you do have to click that link.
Yeah, and I think eventually they gave a certain date that everybody would get moved over to the free version if they don't. But you're right, you can go in and click on, when you click on the Screencastify extension, I've already updated mine. But if not, it'll pop up here and say, are you ready to switch over to the new free version? There's some date, I think sometime in February, that eventually everybody will get switched over, whether they choose to or not. All right. Well, wonderful. Let's take a quick look at the Q&A and see if there was anything we could answer in the next couple of minutes here. I know some of these we have addressed. We talked about doing Doodle version in Google Calendar for scheduling. I know we talked about that. What else do we have here? I have been able to send pages to my phone from my Chromebook, but not seeing it as a feature on my Android Pixel 2. I know I have sent pages back and forth as well. I know if I'm in my browser and I right click, I can send it to any account that any other device I'm logged into. If I hear this question right, they're saying going the other direction. So they said I'm able to send it to my phone from my Chromebook, but not seeing it as a feature on my Android Pixel 2. So I believe I've done that from my phone as well, but I think it was a little bit of a different workflow. I think Stephanie, have you done it that other direction?
I was trying to do it right now.
Because I think it was under the share option, I think.
It might have been.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I believe I've done it. If I click on the share option, I thought maybe that's where it was. Let me see. This makes for a really engaging. I know, but
Yeah.
as I'm scrolling through my phone here for like, oh, yep, there it is. Okay, so I did. So here's the deal on the phone. And I can't say for sure if there's something specifically about the Android Pixel 2 that doesn't do this. I've got an old Samsung Galaxy S8, so mine's not fancy. If I'm in Chrome, so I've got the Chrome app. The Chrome app. If I go to any web page and I click the three dots in the top right corner and I choose share, when I choose share and I scroll down all the sharing options, one of the options is send to device. And that's how I send it over to a laptop or a desktop from the phone. So I have done that, and that was the method I went. So, well, I don't know if
And
that.
mine, because I have a Pixel, I think I have the Pixel 3. Mine's under share too,
Okay.
but it has like the Chrome symbol and it says send to you.
Okay. So it's worded a little differently. Okay.
So I don't know if that helps that person.
Okay. All right. Well, a couple others that I feel that we probably have at least an answer that we can give a little bit to. I do see somebody asked if we have any recommendations for cleaning products for Chromebooks, screens, and keyboards. And they did mention they wanted some green recommendations, so something that, you know, would hopefully be environmentally friendly. I don't know if this is. I hope it is. This is what I bought. This is the particular screen cleaning product that I bought from Amazon. And I still have it. It's a pretty big bottle, so I haven't gone through it yet. I use this for everything. I clean my phone with it. I clean my my Chromebook. That's a flip Chromebook. It's a touchscreen flip Chromebook. I clean my my regular Windows laptop screen, my LCD screens, and it's worked really well for me. So, and it does have a leaf on on the box. I don't know if that means it says natural. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to go out on a limb here and say that this is necessarily green, but I would say at least poke a stick at it and see it's saying no alcohol, ammonia, or harmful phosphates. So I hope that is at least one to take a look at if you're looking for it. I've been happy with that one myself. Yeah. Let's see, anything else we think we can answer in the quick time we have here? Oh, here we go. How do you handle staff that may leave the district and want to take their Google files or some of them? Do you use Google Takeout? Well, yes, but it's a special version of it. So if I go to takeout, google.com/transfer. Let me get that link for you guys here real quick. So this is the link.
I can put it in. Oh, you got it.
Oh, yeah, this is the link that we want to use. So, okay, Google Takeout, there's just regular Takeout, takeout.google.com. This is a specific portion of that that's different than just the regular one. If you go to regular Google Takeout, it's like if you want to take all the stuff you have in your drive and then download a copy of it for yourself, and then it downloads it like into like PDF format or Word format, it like transfers it into a different format. That's not what you're trying to do. What you're wanting to do is say, hey, this person's leaving the district and they want their Google stuff to go to a personal Gmail account. They want it to go to the Google account in the new district where they're working. Well, if you go to takeout.google.com/transfer, what it will do is this will only work for education accounts. Now, where you're sending it to doesn't matter. You can be sending it to a personal account or whatever, but it only works to transfer from educational accounts. So if you try to visit this page on a regular Gmail account, it'll say, sorry, you can't access this page from a personal account. But because I'm logged into my work account right now, it'll say, oh, you're okay. You can transfer your content. It'll say, where do you want to send it to? So you have to put in the email address of where you're sending it. It can be a personal Gmail account or another Google for Education account or a Google for Business account, but it has to be a Google account. So you put that address in there and you hit send code. You then have to log into that other account and verify that it's okay, because you can't just send your files to, somebody unknowingly. You have to prove it really is your account. So after you send the code, you go to that account and you verify and say, yep, it's okay to receive this. And then on the third step, you select what you want to copy and transfer. You can pick your Drive, your Gmail, all kinds of things. Now, the key here is the word copy. Nothing is really transferring here. So it's not like somebody's leaving your district and taking their files with them and they're gone from the district. Google still does not support cross-domain transfer of files. This is a copy. You are having a copy made of the files. So all of the originals still exist in the regular domain where you're from. You're getting a new copy of every single file. And what it does is it puts it into a folder. So like if you go to your Drive, you'll have a folder that will say something like, copy of so-and-so's files or something. I can't remember the name it uses for it, but it's very clearly marked. And that folder then has everything that was copied, and it has it it brings the folder structure with it, but it has it nested inside of that. Same for Gmail, it'll put them all in a label so that everything is, is collected together. It can take a while, but you don't have to wait for it. Once you start it, you can walk away, close out of the browser. It all happens in the cloud after that. Once you kick it off, it could take a day, it could take 2 days to move all your stuff or to copy all your stuff. But once you get it started, it's good to go from there. So that would definitely be my recommendation as the cleanest way if somebody is senior graduating and they want to take all their files with them, an employee retiring, somebody who's moving to another school district. I actually use this, and maybe there's another way, and somebody will say, Eric, you could have just done XYZ, but we had a person who had 2 accounts in our own domain. And I don't know exactly how it happened. I'm still not sure, but it's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong. I think it's just too many cooks in the kitchen. And, 2 people made an account for the person at 2 different times. And so this person had 2 accounts, one under like their maiden name and one under their married name. And it had just fallen through the cracks, and they had both accounts. They were using both accounts. And we're like, oh, I don't want that anymore. You probably just want one account. And they agreed, yes, let's just use my married name account. And so what I did was I used Google Takeout to send all of the files from her first account over to her new account, even though they were in the same domain. It was faster to do that than have her go in and try to share all the stuff herself. It actually made it really simple and just, it sent a copy over. So that's kind of cool. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up. Stephanie, as we start to wrap up, was there something that you thought we should mention? Something that I skipped over here that you wanted to give an answer to or draw attention to?
I would just suggest if anyone has any answer to these questions, there's some hard questions on here, to just go ahead and put in a response. And if it is easier, just create a screencast for us. I think that would help out a lot because there are some really good questions on here, but I don't even know half the answers. And I didn't even know the Google Takeout that there was a difference with the transfer. So that is good to know.
Yeah, so fantastic for graduating seniors. This is
Yeah.
something that they all need to know as we're getting, heading into the second half of our school year here. That's going to be a great tool for them. So yes, please do, look through this. And if you have an answer to any of these, feel free to add that in. I will do the same. I apologize. Some of these questions, this is my first time seeing them. They just got typed in, and I will need to, take a look at some of these as well and see if I can provide some additional resources to help support these. Having said all of that, a couple things that I do want to mention as we start to wrap up is if you did not sign in for today, please go back to the top of the document and head down to the section called Important Links. Should be on page 2. Highlighted in green, there's a sign-in form. What this does is it lets me do 2 things. It lets me send you a certificate of attendance for the meeting. So if you put your name and email address in there, I will mail merge through AutoCAD a certificate of attendance for you. It also lets you tell us if this was your first time attending or not, because I send that information to Google. I don't give them your name or email address, but I do take the number of people who this was their first time and for those who it wasn't, so we can tell them how many people attended and how many people were new to it. Would definitely appreciate if you just take a quick moment and fill out that sign-in form. That would be great. As a clarification for next month, things are going to be a little different next month. February at the moment, if you check the website, it looks like we have a meeting in February. We are going to change this one. So the February 27th is not going to be a normal meeting. Instead, because we are having an in-person meetup at OETC, this is going to replace our meeting for February. I realize not everybody can obviously attend that, but we would encourage as many people who can on February 12th at 11:30 at Flatiron to join us for that. So I will go in and I will adjust the information in the on the web page to reflect that we will not be doing a live broadcast meeting in February. So March will be like this one. It'll be a 2-month one. We'll catch February and March together on March 31st. I just didn't want anybody to be confused about that. I will get in and clean that up so that it doesn't have that other date on there. And other than that, please stay connected throughout the next couple of months and on by joining our GEG Ohio Google group. That's just a simple Google group email distribution list. That's under the updates section where you can join that group so that you can ask questions and learn and connect all the time in between our meetings. And of course, check out the website at bit.ly/GEG Ohio for any other updates. So I want to, again, thank everybody so much for being with us today. Thanks to Alex for joining us. And Stephanie, thank you so very much, as always, for everything you do for this, including the podcast. If people are not aware of that, the audio from this video does get pulled out as a podcast. Can you tell folks a little bit about how to get to that, Stephanie?
So we put our podcast on Anchor, and Anchor pretty much sends it out to all the different podcasting apps. So like Google Podcasts, it's there. It's on Apple's, Spotify, pretty much anywhere where you listen. If it is somewhere where you listen and it's not there, just let me know and I can look into that. But you can always check out the podcast and you can listen on the go.
Very nice. So whether you're watching the video on YouTube or if you're watching or listening to the podcast or just checking out the document, whatever method is the best way to consume this, we hope this has been beneficial to you. So until next time, thank you guys so very much for being with us, and we look forward to learning with you again real soon. Take care.